So hello, my name is Rob and this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and in this video we're going to be making these forest-like bases that I've been doing for my trog-offs. I think they're forest bases, they could be wetlands, they could be marshy. There's a few ways you can do these, they're really versatile, and although they can be a little bit time consuming, I do think it gives a really good effect, and you can change lots of things to suit different seasons if you want to. So they're incredibly versatile with how we make them. So in this video I'm going to break it down step by step. We're going to go through it and let's make some bases and have a little bit of fun. Nice. Okay, so let's move our toys out of the way for a minute, and we've got a base right here. Now, what I would recommend is you do build your figure at least so you can see the spacing between the legs. I've got this guy with the rock above his head. The rock gut really is a fantastic kit. I wish I would have done an unboxing so everyone could have seen it. It's got loads of options, but make sure that you do have your figure kind of at least the legs built for the purpose of this video, as we're going to need to do some spacing. But that's only the only prerequisite, I guess. I don't even know if I've said that word right, before we get started. As always, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll leave links in description for socials and stuff like that. But yeah, let's just begin. So first up, we're going to need some cork. This is an old cork placemat. I think it cost me about £4. I've got a few different types here. Don't worry about consistency. Nature isn't consistent, and that's why, you know, you can use a variety of materials and get away with it. We want that kind of natural, I guess, like jagged, naturey edge. But first thing I like to do is I've got my cork. I put my model. I always like my model centered in the middle of the base. I tend not to have it too far forward. I use the little nipple that tends to be in the middle as a bit of a guide. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to stand my figure on there, and I'm just going to rip the cork around it. That is the first step. What we would want to make sure is that its feet can be fixed flat onto the cork, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly start tearing bits away until I've got a shape that I really like. So I've now torn up my kind of cork. I've come in, I've chopped some bits out. As you can see, I've kind of got this cool little like pitted look going. Kind of looks like the Wu-Tang W upside down, but anyway. Don't worry about the edges, how we get these nice and kind of flat. Put it on your base. Get some clippers and just start clipping away, and you'll get that kind of nice smooth edge round it. But you can do that once it's glued on as well. And for that, I'm just going to use some really cheap super glue. This is just a cheap liquid super glue, and I'm going to just smother it all over the back of the base like so, and then just stick it on. And then I'm going to leave it for about, I guess, 5 minutes or so. One thing I will say about this, if you do kind of like 2-3 of these together, it doesn't seem as bad, but if you're doing these one at a time, this might be a bit of a time consuming process. Once it's stuck on, what I like to do is I come in with my hobby knife and I just start scratching away some chunks of the cork. The reason why I do this is I like that kind of natural look. Cork to me always looks a little bit too flat, and in my opinion sometimes can look a little bit rubbish when it's stuck onto bases. It looks exactly like it is, cork stuck to bases. But by doing this, we can make some little veins and stuff like that. Once again, just be careful of the feet, not to scratch away anything where there's going to be a contact point, as it can cause little problems. You could have a wonky model, etc, etc. Then what I like to do, I come back in with the liquid super glue. Again, this is just dirt cheap stuff. I think this cost me about £1. And I'm just going to kind of put it all around the edges and kind of near the lip of the cork. The reason why I do this is to toughen it up. I used to do this with a little bit of watered down liquid green stuff, but now I've been using super glue and I find it works just as well. Just work your way all the way around it, just kind of let it all soak in, and then leave it for a good 10 minutes to dry. It won't take long. Now that's done, what we can actually do, as you see, it's absolutely rock solid. We are going to prime our base. Now I've been using this is Game Master terrain primer. This is normally used for things like foam and stuff like that. It's a really good switch. It's really lovely walnut kind of like smell to it. I really like it. Should be breathing this in, wear a mask, absolutely, don't be like me. But because it's a little bit watery, because it's safe on foams and stuff like that, it really soaks into everything and it gives a really good finish. So I've been using it a lot for my bases lately. It's really good stuff, try it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. I think it's from the Army Painter. But the first step we are going to do is I'm going to come in with Mechanica Standard Grey, and all I'm going to do is just a very heavy overbrush. Now the reason why I'm doing this is just in case I do make any mistakes. I shouldn't really. You probably could skip this step if you wanted to. I'm just going to paint it all over, just so I've got a base colour that I can go back to if I do mess anything up. Next, I'm going to come up with this. This is Dark Star Murky Mire. It's basically Agrax shade. It's a brown wash. I like this because it simulates that kind of dirt texture that you get in a lot of natural rock formations. And all I'm going to do is dot it over absolutely everything, like I'm doing here. And then using a really wet brush, I'm just going to wash the whole thing over, you know, the entirety, making sure I get all the sides, the edges. Just make sure it settles into any kind of dips and cracks that I might have chipped out of the cork, anything like that. Once it's completely dry, and it could take 20 minutes or so to dry, we're going to come back in with some dry brushes. First up, Dawnstone. Same again. I'm just going to start working my way. I'm going to focus more on the edges here because I want to draw your eye to kind of like the edges. So we're going to leave it darker in, you know, some of the middle bits, but we're just going to work our way around. Then we're going to repeat the process again. As you can see here, it's looking great. With Administratum Grey. This is mainly going to be focused again towards the edges, just to give the impression of like sharp rock and just kind of draw your eye to the kind of, you know, where we are, any points of interest you might say, and just kind of like highlight, almost like a spotlight of what your miniature's standing on. Now that's done, this step is optional, and I will tell you why in a bit. It really depends on the texture paints you're going to use, but what I like to do is I like to get some Mournfang Brown and some Deathworld Forest, and with a lot of water kind of on my brush, not so it's absolutely swimming in it, but just enough to kind of make it, you know, keep the paint wet for a little bit longer than maybe it should. I'm going to paint all this on, like, starting with Mournfang. It doesn't matter which one you start with, to be honest with you. I'm just going to paint it all the way around on the flat bits of the base, just like so. And then I'm going to come in with some Deathworld Forest. Again, I'm going to quickly wash my brush out, but I am going to leave it really, really wet, as you can see here. And then I'm just going to kind of dob it on to the Mournfang Brown and almost stipple it in, and you can get some really cool natural kind of ground texture, because it's not going to be that. Again, you'll see why in a minute. Just tidying up the rim there with my finger, and I'm just going to finish off the base like this. So it's all been painted and it's all dry. Now the reason why I do this is because depending on what texture paints you want to use, you might be able to see some of the base underneath, so that's why I cover it. But what I like to do now is I go back with Deathworld Forest, and I make a really, really watery mixture. I'm adding like a good couple of paintbrushes of water here to my mix, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this over the rocks. The reason why I do this is to kind of give that green, slimy, algae kind of look to the rocks. It's subtle and you might want to skip this step, but I do just help it ties some of the colours together, especially at the end. There you can see it's got subtle hints of green there. It's, like I said, if you're looking for it, you'll see it, but you might not notice it on first glance, and it's almost like the base tells a little bit of a story the more you look at it. I like that type of stuff. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get two texture paints. Now here I'm using Armageddon Dunes and Sterling Battlemire. Again, I'm going to get both of them open at the same time, and I'm going to do very much like we did with the Mournfang and the Deathworld Forest, using a very old small layer brush. I'm just going to get a good bit of Sterling Battlemire on my brush and just start putting it on my base, all the flat surfaces. We want it to kind of pile up against the rock. We want, you know, a little bit of natural shape. But then I'm just going to come straight in with the Armageddon Dunes, and I'm just going to kind of mix the two together actually on the base. Apologies, that was a bit low of the camera. You'll see what I'm doing a bit here. Just have fun with this. You could substitute this for a Grellan Earth, or, you know, go all crazy with some, you know, Martian colours if you wanted to. It's really, really versatile. You know, so you can get some kind of different looking, almost like autumnal themes by using reds and stuff like that. Great fun. But what we do need to do is we're going to brighten it up now. And to do this, we're going to be using some Army Painter Battlefield Grass. I love this stuff, I spoke about before. Some basing glue, and also we are going to use some tufts. I find having a variety of different colours really helps bring that kind of natural look to everything. I'll explain that just in a bit, but what we're going to do now is we're going to apply some grass. And for this, what we're going to do, open our little tub up. Again, I'll leave links to the Army Painter website down below. This is just, I've been using this so much. I actually inherited this from my friend David, lovely guy, gave me loads of hobby stuff. I think he went back to the Netherlands to live for a bit. He left me all this stuff. This is absolute gold. So David, if you're watching, I miss you, man, but thanks so much for this grass. All I'm going to do with the basing glue here, I'm just going to put it on, not think about, you know, too much. I want to leave some of that ground texture showing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle it over absolutely everything. What you can do here is just kind of like dab it on, like a dabbing motion like I'm doing here. You can tap it once it's on. The only thing I will say to be careful of is just near the edges. And what I mean by this is once we tap it off, what I like to do, I give it a good couple of flicks to remove any excess. And as you can see here, you know, I'm not exactly being gentle. I'd probably pat this thing on the back if I didn't have stumpy little fingers. But what I like to do, just with my finger, just scoop up the ends, just so when I actually paint the base, the rim, I don't get little bits of like tufts and, you know, flock stuck in it. The reason why I put it on a little thing is because we can actually pop it back in the pot and use it next time. Recycling. Then we're going to come in with tufts. Now, this is a great way of adding colour. There are so many tufts available in, you know, different suppliers. I'm using a variety of Geek Gaming, Games Workshop and Army Painter tufts here. And literally, I'm just going to add a little dab of super glue on, and I'm just going to push it onto the base. Nothing special. I'm going to try not to think about too much. I do like to use a different variety of heights and thicknesses. So some smaller tufts next to some, you know, bigger bunches just gives a bit of natural height and just kind of sells the whole thing, just brings it all together. Again, don't think too much about it. Don't worry about putting colors next to colors or not colors enough. Just, you know, jab them on. The thing I like about this is you can actually cut them with a knife. As you can see here, I've got some bits kind of like sticking out the side just here like that. And if you are going to make any like big dinks or anything like that in your cork, just get your hobby knife, really jab it in. You know, these things are, you know, they last, don't worry, they're not as fragile as what you think. I've got some stuff with some flowers on here, and it just kind of sells that kind of foresty, glady, wetland, fieldy-ish kind of base that we're going for. Again, let me know in the comments below if you kind of got a better name for these bases. I guess I'm going to go with forest bases, forest floor bases, I don't know. But what I like to do on this next stage is I'm just going to paint the rim. I'm going to use XV88, but obviously, you know, if you're going to use black, just take your time, couple of thin coats, just dresses it really nicely. And lastly, what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of get this little pot. I think this is Arid Earth. Again, this was from Geek Gaming. This is really old, this stuff. I don't know where to do it anymore. What I'm actually looking for are these little stones just here. And all I'm going to do is dip them in super glue, and I'm just going to put a couple on the base, round about the tufts and stuff like that, just to give the idea of like a bit of a rocky Badlands type of thing. But that's it. That's all it is. Let's have a look at it and see how it turned out. As you can see, it's great. It's really, really easy to do. You can do more kind of basing, less cork. You can have some without any cork, so they sit at different heights. And that's really like the beauty of this. You could double up your cork and make them stand even taller. This would be great for things like crew, obviously Trogoths, orcs, iron jaws, which are great on this. Something really striking, bright colours, absolutely. But that's it. It's good fun, and I really, really like doing these. So, and they're going to be on my Trogoth army for AOS 4.0. So there we go. Foresty thingy bases. That's it from me in this one. I'll see you all next time. God bless and take care.